We are here, 90s Hip Hop Junkies. I'm your boy, Raul Holla, and I got a legend in the building. This is so serious because this guy is all over the world right now. We got Speech, Arrested Development in the building.
Word up, man. It's good to be here, baby.
No, it's good to, no, I'm happy to be here.
No, I'm happy. You know what I'm saying?
Great performance just now, too.
Thank you, man. It was love. You know what I'm saying? It was good vibes.
Yes, it definitely was. So, growing up, of course, I didn't get to go to venues that I was a kid, right? So unless moms or pops is taking me, I didn't get to see you as a kid, but I grew up on your music. So this is actually my first time seeing you live. So that was dope for me. I was like in awe.
We did what we were supposed to do. Then that's good.
Yeah, because I mean, and I think that's happening a lot now. Is like a lot of artists I grew up on, seeing you guys perform now is just amazing to me. Like when I hear Tennessee, I hear Mr. Wendell, I hear Everyday People. What inspired those songs?
You know, it's different things for different ones. Like the thing about us is that it's always about writing about real things, like things that we really have been through. So like Mr. Wendell, we really hung with homeless people all the time. We used to have a studio in Edgewood in Atlanta, and it just happened to be a lot of homeless people in that area. So they come by the studio, they hear the music, and we talk and we just build, man. We talk about everything from politics to spirituality to, you know, just personal life things, and we built relationships with these brothers. And so Mr. Wendell was just one of the many that, you know, so that was that song. Tennessee was really about loss, you know, because I lost my grandmama in the same week I lost my only brother. The last place I saw both of them was in Tennessee. So that song, you know, and then People Every Day, real life story again. I was living in Milwaukee at the time, which is where I was born, and it was slower. Like the progression of consciousness and all that was slower. So here's a dude with dreads, dashikis and stuff like that, really representing African culture, and that wasn't being accepted by other brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters. So there was conflict. You know, people feeling like you a sucker because you wearing traditional clothing and stuff like that. So all of these songs, you know, based on real life stories, you know.
Right. Well, I feel like though, even though like the 90s, I feel like there were all these different lanes, and I feel like they were all accepted.
No, it's true, because like back in the 90s, bro, diversity was celebrated.
Right.
It was celebrated. Right now, it's not as celebrated. Like if you're diverse and different, it's almost like, oh, that ain't hot. But if you sound similar to other things, it's like, yo, that's hot. And that's not how we used to think. It was like, no. And not to mention, every coast had its own sound. The West Coast had their own sound. They was on more like of a George Clinton, you know, revamped. You know, so the East Coast had like James Brown loops and jazz loops revamped. The South was on, you know, to be honest, before we came out, it was really more on like a Miami bass tip. A lot of fast 120, 130 beats per minute type stuff, sort of like Two Live Crew and Uncle Luke and all of that. When we came out, though, it was more what would later be called the Dirty South. We was really showing like Southern life, you know, rural South, bringing like a Southern energy, that gospel energy, singing and, you know, organ and all of these blues riffs and stuff like that. So the fact is that each coast had its own energy, and I miss that. I miss that in hip hop right now, you know.
Right. Which I see that till this day you're still making music. A lot of those songs that I heard, new songs, and they were great. So is that what keeps you going?
Yeah, we still passionate. Like we have so much passion, we have so much fire inside of us that it really did. Like a lot of people want us to just do only nostalgic stuff. I think there'll be a time for that, but right now it's just not in us. We would be betraying ourselves if we did that, because we're still living, you know, we're still feeling alive. So we just wanted to keep on creating things that we really feel is hot. You know what I mean? So,
what artists, like new artists that you hear now, that you feel like you feel like you had some inspiration in their music? Is there anybody that you hear now that you think like you've, or that maybe even approached you and be like, they're inspired by it?
Definitely a lot of artists have. I mean, from Fugees, obviously Wyclef, Lauryn Hill, Pras, but Black Eyed Peas came up and said the same thing. Mos Def came up and said the same thing. Talib Kweli, Erykah Badu. So many comments come up, said the same thing. So a lot of these brothers and sisters, I think what people realize with Arrested Development is that we took on what Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, Native Tongues, De La, that whole movement, we took that and then added our own thing to it as well and took it even further. We went around the world with it. So it's like our level of consciousness and our level of musicality, I think, also brought in groups like Goody Mob and, Outkast. And what I mean by brought them in is I'm not taking nothing from them. I'm saying, like, we allowed them to happen in a sense, just like Tribe and them allow us to happen. It's like in music, there's always those bands and groups that expand the boundaries of the music, so it allows other people to continue to expand it as well. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel Arrested Development has done for a lot of groups and artists.
Right. Now, I have to ask this question because a lot of people always heard the song Tennessee, but never knew where you were from.
Yeah, we're from Atlanta. Now, I was born and raised in Milwaukee. That's my hometown. But I moved to Atlanta in 1987, and I started the group in Atlanta. I was going to the Art Institute of Atlanta, and I hung up a flyer in the hallway for a DJ because I started rhyming. I used to DJ, but I started rhyming. And my man, Tim Barnwell, later I called him Headliner because he is a great barber, too. And so Headliner became the DJ. We started doing what's basically like sound systems, where similar to like Soul to Soul out of UK, where Jazzy B would have a lot of dancers and singers and stuff like that, along with his whole just set that he would spin. Well, it was the same thing with us. Headliner would spin stuff, I would rhyme. We would bring up dancers, singers, poets, African drummers, everything. And so when you saw Arrested Development, it was always like a lot of people on stage, and it was always a free form, sort of soul session, just expression type of experience. So when we got signed, it was tough for us because we had 20 people on stage, so we had to determine, like, how do you make this financially feasible? How are you gonna tour the world with 20 people? We're not Earth, Wind and Fire, what I'm saying? It was like, how are you gonna really do this? So then we decided to choose 6 people. And we went on the road with Baba OJ, Early Tariq, Razadon, Headliner, me. And so we just had to sort of boil it down to those 6. But the truth is, we left behind another 15, 14 people who was like, yo, what about us? So by the time our second album came, we started letting them come aboard. So it was a process of just letting the whole real creative energy come about. But yeah, that's sort of how we came off,
Right. So I know you travel and you tour all over the world, but what area would you say, where do you go where they like super lit, singing all the words? What country, what state, country, whatever, do you get that love?
I'll be honest with you, I'm really grateful. Like, our favorite places is Australia and Japan.
Okay.
Australia is always amazing. They just really love what we was doing and love the 90s style of hip-hop, and they're just crazy with it. Then Japan is ridiculous. I owe my whole career to Japan because back in when the group Arrested Development stopped touring and stopped recording in 95, I started doing solo music. The States wasn't accepting it, so Japan was the only ones that was accepting it, and that allowed me to keep my fire going. If it wasn't for Japan, this show and every other show would not have happened this year or any other year prior. So I really give them a lot of love. So I would say Australia and Japan.
Nice. It's funny. I heard a funny story about Australia. I heard a song. Their thing is Polo and Nike.
Oh, word? I never heard that.
Yeah, I heard a song. I met an Australian dude, and but like you said, they're heavy on the 90s, and they're not really into this new trap thing. They're really on, and they dress like it looks like 90s.
It does. But I think, the thing about Australia is that, and Japan, for instance, they just, America, we're into what's new. Mm-hmm. And America, a lot of times, bites itself in the hand or foot or whatever, because we're always selling a new product, because we're a very consumer-oriented nation. Whereas we don't really stop and think, well, what actually is warranted to continue to move forward. We just want new, and new is always better, and we've sort of fooled ourselves into thinking that. Right. And I think we've got to get out of that, whereas Australia, Japan, Europe even, they're not always onto that. They're like, no, man, I'm not letting this stuff go. This is fresh. Like, I want to hear new music from them, but I don't want to let that go. Like, no, this is where it's at. So I think it's just a different energy. It's where we used to be back in the day. I remember the days when a Stevie Wonder, what have you, could be a little kid and grow up to be a grown man and do albums that entire time. Right. Little Stevie Wonder all the way to grown man Stevie Wonder, Intervisions, all of that stuff. All that career developing an artist all the way throughout. We don't do that as much nowadays. Nowadays it's more so like, okay, what's new? And that to me at least, that shoots ourselves in the foot, as a nation. Because that's why a lot of these groups in other countries come here and rack up, because they have a different worldview of music than we do right now.
Well, listen, I don't want to hold you up, but definitely want you to let the people know where they can find you at, where they can find the music, because I know you got 2 new albums that you have out right now, so let everybody know where they can find this stuff.
Yeah, so we got 2 new albums, This Was Never Home and Changing the Narrative. You could get it at ArrestedDevelopmentMusic.com. One of them's free, one of them's $9.99. Then we dropped another single called In One Day that you could also get for 99 cents. Get it from our website, because anywhere else, like, I don't know if y'all know iTunes and all of them, they're going to take 30 cents off of your purchase from the artist right off the bat. And historically, that's never happened in the music industry. So I'm not hating on iTunes. I get people use it. But I'd rather you go to our website, ArrestedDevelopmentMusic.com, and pick up the music there. I don't know if y'all know, like, a lot of musicians really rely on their concerts in order to even make a living right now, because music, because of streaming, you don't make a lot of money from music sales. So when you go to the website, you can really peep out the music, and it truly supports the artist. So go to the website, peep out the music. We're going to give you some free stuff anyway, so you'll love it.
Beautiful. Well, it's been a pleasure. This is an honor for me to finally meet you in person. Yes, I thank you. Thank you for great music, and appreciate you. And I hope to see you again someday.
No doubt, man. We'll be back without a question.
Thank you. Thank you. Yo, this is 90s Hip Hop Junkies. We out of here. Your boy Rel Holla, man. Yell at me.